I believe we're live.
I think we are.
Yeah, we are. Okay, cool. Good morning, good day, everybody. Depending on where you're at, if you're watching this live or if you're going to watch this at a later time, I appreciate you joining my channel. My name is Tiffany Hill Cook, and I run a spiritual practice called the Healing Hill. And I don't know, I'd say about this is like 12 months in the making. I started getting information from Spirit regarding, the next step in my journey. And it was, sharing my light in the form of creating a space for others to share theirs as well. And so today, this is episode 1. I feel so blessed and grateful. I have April Angel joining us. I'm going to have her introduce herself in just a moment. But I met April a few years ago. I had an awakening in 2020. And if you've never had something like that, I believe I've made some videos on it. But essentially, the life I had spent countless hours curating was no longer working for me. And the awareness related to that happened in an instant. And over a course of about 6 months, I got one evening, I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard, you're going to help people heal. You're going to help yourself and other people heal through dreams. And I ended up finding this gentleman by the name of Michael Sheridan, who has a dream interpretation course. And then he has a few different courses. And April is one of the lead students there, lead instructors there. And so I've done quite a bit of healing work and dream work with April. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, April.
That was great. And I want to say that it's an honor to help you with the launch of this new project for you. I think it's going to be really great. And it's really fun. I love talking to you every time that we've ever met up. I always enjoy your energy. I enjoy you so much. And yeah, I'm a dream interpreter. I work for the Ashling School with Michael Sheridan. And I have 2 kids. I don't know. Like you mentioned your awakening. My awakening was in 2012. And I was just a ball of nerves. I was very high strung. I was very anxious. I was depressed all the time. And so I was like, why? And I was having an existential crisis. It was a dark night of the soul. And so I was, not happy. So I was like, why am I not happy? Like, what's wrong? I was noticing like my 4-year-old is happy. I was a single mom. So that definitely didn't help. And I had a friend come visit, and he was talking, and he was from San Francisco. Well, and so he was telling me about these, like some LSD or DMT or something that he'd done. And he's like, that we all saw this blue woman and everyone that was together, and the crickets these are just the highlights. It sounded crazy. So I'm saying it like it's crazy. But he's like, the crickets are downloading our conversation right now. And it was a beautiful evening. The moon was out. And I was like, this person is he's so happy. And he believes crazy stuff. My daughter is so happy, and she believes her mind is open, basically. Santa Claus, mermaids, all of it's on the table. She's open to it, and they're happy. So I'm like, maybe open-mindedness is the key for me getting out of this. So I opened my mind, and then started immediately within 1 week, got an email that led me to click an article about Eben Alexander, who is a neuroscientist who had a near-death experience. I was like, ooh, this guy's a scientist and he's saying that there's an afterlife. I can get on board with him saying that. So it was a rabbit hole for 3 years. And one of the people that had a near-death experience, do I need to go this deep?
I love it. This is what we're having. We're just having a conversation.
Okay. One of the women,
by the way, incarnation was part of my awakening. So please.
Incarnation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so bring that it was true.
Yeah. So the woman, one of the stories from her near-death experience, she was like, and we were all communicating telepathically, and that's just how it works. And when I came back, I still had that ability. So I can still talk to my guides telepathically. And I was like, oh, psychic stuff is real. It is real. So then I got excited about that. And I'm going to say her name wrong, but Sonia Choquette, is that how you say it? She's like a really famous spiritual teacher. Okay. And she's written books. And I read that dreams are like a psychic message every night if you can interpret your dreams. And I was like, hell yeah, I want a psychic message every night. I want that. So I started looking for dream interpretation stuff. And the stuff that I was finding online was exciting at first, but over a few months, I was like, this isn't it. Like, it's like, not, it's not giving me, everything was just saying like, you have emotions. Basically the water is emotions, the this is emotions. So that water is not emotions, people, by the way. But like, that's what it was saying. So none of it was guidance. And I was like, not good. But then 3 years after my awakening, I Googled a dream symbol, and it led me to Michael Sheridan's website. And everyone hopefully knows what it's like when you get an aha moment. I'm like, this is it. And I just I bought his book immediately and had it sent to me on vacation, 2-day shipping. And I was like breastfeeding my baby and like reading the book. And then I called him and I was like, I called him, like I had his number. I emailed him and I was like, is an in-person class, or would I learn anything from a course? Because he just had in-person weekend courses at the time. And he's like, yeah, I think that you would learn more from a course than just the book and the radio show. So he invited me to come out to do an in-person course. And he was very kind because I had a 6-month-old baby. He's like, you can even stay here. Full disclosure, this many people live with me. This is my fiance at the time, now wife. And these are my kids. They're all going to be there, but there's a guest room and you can stay in it to do this course. And I was like, okay. And that was the start of me now being an instructor at the school.
Wow. That is so beautiful. You talked about the reincarnation piece, and that was actually at the beginning of my awakening as well. I remember so I was very heady, very logic based. People that believed in God were fucking idiots. And, and still to this day, religion is not something that resonates with me. And, spirituality and religion are two very different animals.
Yes.
But I found it's just, we're always being guided, right? So I turned on my TV and I, was watching YouTube at the time through my TV, and I found an Oprah episode for this gentleman whose name is Dr. Brian Weiss. And I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I have read his books. Yes.
Okay, cool. Many Lives, Many Masters. And I was like, this is a Harvard, I believe, and Yale educated individual who was talking about specifically, he was doing past life, or he was doing regression work, this lifetime regression work related to trauma and how it was manifesting in current life. And all of a sudden this patient, and by the way, the number 27 is like angel number showed up. And I remember this gal's birthday was May 5th, May 27th. And anyways, and he took her all the way to like 27 AD, 57 AD. And it's your consciousness never forgets. So I can resonate with that too. And logic and, science being, an important part of it. I know that you're an instructor currently. You even had a course this weekend. What I want to connect this question to is purpose, and how you can feel when you are living your life's purpose. And I want to be clear, whatever we're doing in the moment is our purpose, right? Like, this is what we're doing and it's all we have is this current moment. But I'm curious for you, how, you went from, being curious about dreams and your own, and now you're literally helping thousands of people heal and discern their purpose. And so how does that feel for you to be a part of that?
It's great. It's very fulfilling. Most people go to work and it's like, I can't wait to get home, or I don't like my job. And if I'm having a bad day, my job actually makes me feel better. So it feels really great to be living my purpose. And also, my purpose is to be an example of someone who's living in their purpose. So it's really fun to help people identify it, but it's not as clear cut as people would like to say. Like, no one told me you're meant to be a dream interpreter. Like, you figure it out along the way by following your heart. And some people, like, they'll know from a young age that they're meant to be a doctor. It's like they know their purpose and then they go for that. But some people feel like they don't know their purpose and they feel kind of lost about that. And when that's the feeling that someone has, your purpose is to find your purpose, which is really hard. And you do that from getting to know yourself and moving into your heart and removing anything that's preventing you from being in your heart and expressing and following it.
100%. I want to say hi. I don't know if you noticed, Janice is with us. She's saying hello from Brazil. So, and she's going to be joining me in a couple of weeks. But I'd like to talk about the heart space, because I grew up in a household that I would describe as authoritarian, very almost militaristic. And Amy's here too. Hi, Amy. And so I was so disconnected. And then I found it. So I grew up in a very cold type of environment, was always provided for in the sense of food, any extracurriculars. I was in 4-H as a child. And so I always had the material items, but I was in an emotional deficit a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my childhood. And I'm a highly sensitive person anyway. I'm like, I want to cry and with you all the time. That sounds like the best Sunday ever. And then I found an organization, it's no wonder, that mirrored that same energy. So it was highly masculine energy, it was outside sales, and, you know, having emotions just kind of got in the way. And
Mm.
whenever I did have them, they literally would bubble up and I just couldn't stop crying. So then it was like I was unstable. That was kind of the label that I felt, the scarlet letter that I felt.
Mm.
And so I'm curious for you, how would you, for somebody that maybe is disconnected, or that heart chakra is really closed, or the energy isn't flowing freely there, how would you uh, guide somebody to start to connect with their feelings and with their heart?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like you've got to go to the root of why your heart got closed in the first place. So it's to tell someone to have an open heart. Even when I was first beginning my healing journey, and Michael was interpreting my dreams, and he's like, "You need to feel your feelings. All these dreams are saying open your heart." I was like, "What does that mean?" I get angry, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Like I laugh when stuff is funny. Like, what do you mean I'm not feeling my feelings? And he's like, you just don't feel your feelings. And I figured out what that meant eventually, but I was cutting the ties that bind. I was doing a healing therapy that was putting me in a space where I had to confront the feelings and notice when I was going to my head to kind of like talk myself out of feeling what I was feeling. And one story that I really like was kind of my aha moment about like, oh, I do that. I'm supposed to feel this. I
Mm-hmm.
was in a Build-A-Bear with with my daughters, and the youngest one was a baby and the other one was 7, and they were having a birthday party. It was nearly Christmas time, but all the kids in this little party were getting their little bears stuffed. And so it was just packed because it was almost Christmas. And I was standing there in this crowded store, and I did something with my arm. I just dropped it. It fell. And there was a toddler like right at the back of hand level. So I just smacked this kid in the face. And I was like, oh my God, as soon as I made contact with flesh, I was like, I immediately spun around. I dropped, and I was cutting the ties that bind with my mom, and my mom was physically abusive. So I dropped down and I was like, I grabbed her face. And of course, she's like starting to like squeal from
Yeah,
shock, and it's
yeah.
an assault. And so she's like squealing, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then her dad's right behind her. And I'm like, and so I stood up and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, it's okay. And he's picking up his daughter. And I'm like, oh my God. So like I back away and I'm letting him handle it. And oh my God, I'm going to cry right now. I was noticing like how upset I was that I had just done this to a stranger's innocent little baby. And I wanted to cry, but in my head, I was like, it's okay. It's okay. She's young. It's temporary pain. It's going to go away. Her dad's right there. Her dad's comfort. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm really upset and I want to cry right now. And I'm telling myself I shouldn't cry and why I don't need to cry. So I just started welling up, and I went to the back of Build-A-Bear and I was weeping. And then my friend found me, the one that was like hosting the party. She's like, what are you doing? What's wrong? And I was like, I just smacked a kid in the face and I'm feeling my feelings. So yeah, I had to go to the root of it. And I was so good at protecting myself from feeling those feelings, because it hurts when you're living in an environment that doesn't support or accept a feeling child or they're causing pain. Like, you got to stay out of your heart and in your head. So it's like
The only safe
gently,
space.
yeah, it has, yeah.
Yeah. For me, what I notice today, at least, where I disconnect from my heart, or I guess it's not disconnect, I don't honor my heart, I don't honor my feelings, is I'm an agreeable person, just
Mm-hmm.
naturally. Like, there's agreeable and disagreeable people. And so part of my agreeability is, inherent compassion, inherent empathy, and just not wanting to, conflict avoidant, even though sometimes I do like conflict, but I don't want to like marginalize or hurt people's feelings. And at the cost of that is sometimes my own. And a lot of times I don't even realize it until after. And I'm like, shit, I just gave away something that I just had a boundary cross that I didn't even know was a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mind goes, well, you can't change your mind now. That'll be confusing for them. And so that's where I notice it today is, not knowing what a boundary is and then having to reestablish something, and not wanting someone to be mad at me, which I can't control anybody's response or reaction to me ever anyway,
Yeah.
Um, you talked about, I'm curious, and I've done this therapy. I believe I did it with your counterpart, but you do this through the school. You talked about cutting the ties that bind.
Mm-hmm.
Will you share a little bit about that? That therapy helped me. I did mom twice, and I've done my father once, but it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's a great therapy because, and it doesn't seem like it's doing anything at all because it really works by, you do like a 15-minute meditation twice a day, and you're just picturing things. You're just imagining symbols, and like really symbols that don't really mean anything, like circles and light. And you're just working with those images for a couple times a day. But what it's doing is you're doing this at the same time as you're looking at your dreams, at least the way that we do it at the school. And so you're finding out what your blind spots are that you didn't realize was not something that's inherently a part of you. It's something that you picked up from an earlier influence. And so you're aware of that. You're working with that while you're doing this energy stuff. And the therapy is really great because it's energy work. You go into the subconscious and you're reprogramming, you know this, but you're reprogramming your subconscious, and it works for a wound that happened at any age. Like talk therapy isn't going to work for, a birth trauma because it has to be appropriate for the age that the trauma occurred. So this is really good because it gets at the root of everything. And sure, there's lots of ways to do healing and therapy, but this is the one that it takes 8 weeks usually, and it allows for integration all along the way. So it's not like ayahuasca where you do it one night and it's like this big powerful thing, and then you have to kind of unsupported figure out how to integrate the thing. It's not an automatic fix. It's like 50% medicine, 50% integration. This is something where it's like you're slowly increasing your awareness and integrating things at the same time. It's just a beautiful tool for healing.
And for me, I found, I remember just crying every day.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
crying, so much crying. Um, and then anger, a lot of anger. I had so much anger. Um, and I would say out of all emotions, like anger is probably the least readily accessible to me. And so that was even like, what is this emotion that's coming? And so, what it reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watch, sometimes I watch like YouTube shorts. I don't have any social media, but there are chiropractors that will have these like 1 minute long or 30-second long videos. And sometimes, they'll do whatever the crack is, and these individuals are just overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah.
And they're just bawling, and then normally they're apologizing, and depending on your level of awareness, they don't even understand why it's happening. But the body keeps count. Isn't that a book, The Body Keeps Count, or Score?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All of these like that's the definition of trauma, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're open to this. I created, we're going to pivot a little bit. I thought this might be fun. I've got a jar full of questions. There are probably a couple hundred in here, and they are, related to the soul, relationships, dreams, God, even. And so I thought we could pull some out and just see where this rabbit trail takes us.
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to. So this will be the first one. This is wonderful. I don't know if your people will be able to see it. Really little. How can I use my spiritual practices to support my partner during difficult times?
Spiritual practice, like that's a thing that I don't know that I would claim to have a spiritual practice. I
Mhm.
don't know why that is, except unless I'm thinking of yoga, that
Mhm.
could be a practice. And
What
that's some, yeah.
what about like you're cutting the ties that bind, right? Let's say you're seeing your partner who clearly has an imbalance in their masculine energy. And you're noticing, a tendency that they have to believe that nobody supports them. So
Right.
you've got this partner, you have, some information regarding how dad or mom would have shown up and created that wound or imbalance energetically. Um, so I guess, well, let's rephrase the question.
I can answer it that way though.
Okay, cool. All right, go.
What have I done? I don't know that I recommend this, but what I have done is that I will notice the thing. We will, uh, I'll mention that this is a thing that I've noticed, and they'll get defensive, and then I'll break up, and then we'll get back together, and they'll cut the ties that bind. Like that's, and I'm
Yeah,
like, this is, you need to do this. And so I've done that a number of times with this, with the same person,
yeah,
and we're great now. But like that is what I do. I'm like, I'm noticing this, and I'm more gentle now. I've worked on myself in the years that we've been together, because I definitely needed to do that. Partnership is not my forte, but he's grown through the process of me being that
yeah.
that difficult. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. One of I cannot remember his name, and he's a super popular spiritual leader. But and his wife as well. He does a lot of work emotionally with his wife, but also like he's done, Oprah's Sunday class or master class thing. But they have a contract, and they call it it's a sacred contract, where when they start to notice a behavior in another person, that
Mm-hmm.
they it's not like it's not a blame thing, but hey, I'm starting to notice you're avoiding this specific topic, or I'm starting to notice that you become agitated around XYZ. uh, and it's beautiful in the sense that you're going to be growing and your ego is going to be shrinking, right? The ego always wants a bigger role. It's always seeking to identify and label itself more, but that's really can be, not every relationship seeks that. There's almost too much truth associated to that.
Mm-hmm.
um, so I'm curious, in relationships, because of your spiritual dimension and the way in which expression would be important, is it important for you to have someone that is also on a spiritual journey? uh,
100%.
okay, okay.
100%. Yeah, someone that's open, someone that's curious, someone that understands me. You know that I'm a 4 on the Enneagram. So I'm
I
like, I
do.
need to be understood. I need that. And and it fluctuates. Like sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. And so I'm in a relationship. I'm like, this is good, but maybe the grass, I don't know. So I've had to do growing too, because that's my thing. And so in the relationship, like, being able to be completely honest, because I will damage the relationship by keeping that stuff to myself. So there are periods where we're doing really great, and then I have to be emotionally honest that I am having doubts, and then we go through this rocky period, and then we do great again. And he's able to I'm a very intense person to be with, so he's able to ride that out with me, and I have to appreciate him for that. I'm like, I'm not an easy person to be with.
Yeah. Fours are the most I call them like introverted extroverts, and this
Mm.
so they're very introverted, but they need, there's a requirement to be seen, and there's a uniqueness that they crave, which there's only one of you alive, right? And only one of you that will ever live. So like we can know these things consciously, but the way that the personality, we're just really complex beings.
Mm.
um, I'm curious, are there ever people that you work with that, no, how do I want to ask the question? Let's say someone's in a relationship currently, and they have found they found that their soul needs some expression. There's been an awakening that way, but their partner doesn't have the same need or desire. How would one continue to be able to explore that expression while maintaining that relationship? Because really, at the beginning, it's almost like you can't expect people to be evolving at the same clip and at the same direction that you are going. Um, but so I'm curious, like, how would you coach someone in that instance?
I would, well, How would I coach someone in that instance? I would ask them, I would remind, well, people have done this though. Like relationships end when the other person
Yeah,
isn't
I
willing to
know.
support.
I know.
So it's like just encouraging them to really be in their heart and
Yeah.
follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. And honor
Give
them.
it time. Yeah, give it time. Like it's not going to be like an overnight thing that they're just finally deciding to leave. But it's like if it's really not going to shift, and you can tell it's not going to shift, and they're not understanding you. Like again, relationships are not my forte. I'm like, go run. Someone else will understand you. But like that's never what I say. That's never what I say. But it's like there's sympathy for it. That's a difficult situation.
100%. And like Janice just shared, feeling the feelings. Yes, so hard unless you have worked on releasing trauma. Um, I remember, so I was in talk therapy for, oh, I feel emotion coming. For 4 or 5 years before I had my awakening in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And what had influenced that was I came to work one day and was called into, by the way, I identify where I worked at as a cult. No, and by, two qualifying factors: no ability to question leadership, and they used my own values against me. So one day I come to work and I'm asked to come to a conference room. And in that conference room was 9 or 10 of my peers who all went around the room stating that they no longer wanted to work with me.
Good God.
Because of the way that I was showing up. And, I look back and I was there. I have such clarity around, I was so insecure. I identify as a 3 on the Enneagram, and we are called the achiever. And we're right in the middle of the heart triad. So we're very heartfelt people, but we're the most disconnected from our own emotions. And we're like worker bees. Like we grease the wheels of society. And so we can come across as like used car salesmen almost, just anything to get the sale. And so insecure. It's like, if you went on a hike, I created that mountain. And so I can see how that would have been difficult for people to be around. But fire someone then, right? Like there was a lot of dysfunction around, again, the manipulation of values. But I immediately started to see a counselor after that. And I started to learn about what are called attachment styles. And there's stable, anxious, and avoidant. And I am avoidant. I will run. And I'm clearly way more balanced today. And I can even say, like, hey, I don't know what the feeling is, but in this moment, I'm feeling uncomfortable, or I'm feeling the need to run. I don't know why, but I need, and I don't even know what my needs are, just being able to communicate in the moment what that looks like. But so it sounds like you are a runner as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I know that we meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yes.
And too often we meet people for like a chance encounter and it's delightful, or we meet them for like a summer, but we hold on to them for years. And it's not what the experience was intended for to begin with. And that's where karma starts to come in, and these frustrations, or we start to think about it more than actually honoring the feeling. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to a next question here. That's so bizarre. This is how spirit works. Does karma, we were just talking about that, does karma affect our relationships?
Oh, that's a good segue. 100% it affects our relationships. 100%. You attract someone who's in a vibrational match to you. And it's really funny because I have been with some people that drove me crazy. And I was like, I am so much more evolved than them. This has been in the past, but
Yeah.
but it was since I discovered dream interpretation. And here I'm like, I don't know, but I'm bad at relationships. And I was just kind of waiting for the day that I would break up. I was just kind of like, wait, like someday, like, and always knowing that there was going to be an out for me. And I'm like, when's it going to happen? I was never focused on, yeah, but I had a dream that we had matching t-shirts, and I think that the t-shirt said vibrational match or something, which is kind of funny. I was like, I woke up, I was like, he's not my vibrational match.
Yeah.
But he was. And so, yes, karma has everything to do with it, because we pick up conditioning in childhood, and then we attract partners in adulthood that will push the buttons that were installed at us in childhood. And it's our karma to get rid of those buttons. So relationships are very, very, have everything to do with karma, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And eventually you get to a place where you're attracting someone who isn't attracted to your wounds. They're attracted to you, but you gotta go through the wounds and chuck them out.
Yeah. That brings up a question inside of me, and this has come up in other conversations. And it's okay. So I'm going to preface this by saying, when I went through my awakening and the healing of wounds, I didn't have any other option. That's what I felt. It was like this was the path forward. But I've met some individuals that are like, they don't want to move forward. That healing that wound is just too painful.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or I don't want to say evolving, but at lending to our consciousness or the recalling, it's just too painful. Do you experience that? Have you personally experienced that? And then with your coaching and your teaching, do you come across that as well?
Personally, I am always thrilled and willing and ready to dive into whatever is transformational. So I'm like, I want to know what's wrong with me. I want to see the wounds, and you're excited to go into it. And then when you're doing the healing and you're crying every single day and you're so angry because it's bringing up all those buried feelings, you're like, why did I want to do this? But at the end of it, you're like, so you are transformed. Like, you as a person is able to, like, I'm able to face situations now because I faced all the wounds and the anger and the sadness that was buried. I'm able to face angry people and over people that are emotionally dysregulated, and I can stay calm, where before I would just be high strung and an anxious mess. And I never got, if I would have known I would have had anxiety, I would have had a Xanax prescription, but it would have been like, it was so, I didn't even know. So yeah, but now I can face it, and I don't get, it heals you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up being around anger. I have a little vignette, a little story that happened to me like just 2 nights ago. I'm at work, and so I have a spiritual practice, but I also wait tables in the evenings. That's just where I'm at right now. And we had a company party, and so instead of having like a typical restaurant evening, we served people. And at the end of the night, my boss is banking me out, and closing out my shift, and I had a ticket open. I shouldn't have had a ticket open. I transferred all my tickets, all my drink orders to one ticket because the boss paid for everything. Well, somehow it didn't get transferred. I have no idea how, but there was a $140 tab that was still open. I work at a place that makes millions a month, and not dismissing the fact that there was $140 is a lot of money to certain people. But my boss, literally, he takes this, what I would call an Agilicis card. It's the card that you swipe in to get the computer, and he chucks it at the wall, throws it at the wall, and he starts cussing. And how fucking difficult is this? And I almost started laughing, to be honest. Like, the old me would have gone into like, that my spine, central nervous system would have been highly illuminated. And I'm like, is this fucking 54-year-old man for real right now? Like, and I'm just standing there, like, almost with a smile on my face, like, what is happening right now? But just detached from it. And old me would have like tried to rescue. It just showed in that moment. And then I was able to move forward from that almost immediately. And he ended up apologizing. Not even that. Sometimes an apology doesn't necessarily make up for the action. But it's amazing what healing can do to allow you to be present in a moment.
Absolutely. So like at the end of me answering, I was like, I forget what the question was in the first place, but it was something to do with, what do you do when people don't want to heal, or there you have it. They don't want it. It's too much to face that. You just understand. You just have compassion, I guess. Cause I've talked to friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, you would heal so much. This big problem would no longer be a problem if you healed this issue with mom or dad. And and they don't want to do it, and the problem just persists. And in my heart, I'm like, oh, I love you so much. It's not, you just have to let them be where they are.
Yeah, you can either like accept it for what it is, and if it's too frustrating, it's like you've got to like move on then from that relationship, most likely. Or set a boundary that you're not going to talk about that specific topic or what have you. um, uh, this is not related to that, but I know that you also have a lot of knowledge related to masculine and feminine energy, which I find truly fascinating. Um, and it's not just like, will you share a little bit about that, and even influences of mom and dad? And it's not necessarily that mom is always feminine and dad's always masculine, but um, what is masculine and feminine energy, and how would that influence our lives on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Well, we're all a balance of masculine and feminine energy. And feminine energy is everything to do with having an open heart, being compassionate, being nurturing, being tolerant, being acceptant. It's the expression of gifts. It's everything to kind of do with the inner landscape of us. And uh, women have the egg, and the egg is always inside, whereas men, it's all about what you put out there. And so the masculine energy is that way. So it's managing, it's controlling, it's feeling settled in the world, feeling like the world is supporting you. It's feeling confident, it's feeling secure, and there's so many other aspects. So a balanced masculine and feminine energy, I'm going to use you for an example, would get the insight to start a podcast and do it. So that's the feminine energy, like getting the inspiration, getting the intuitive nudge, but it takes the masculine energy to put it out into the world. I might have a great idea for a book, which is feminine energy, but I'm not using my masculine energy until I put it on paper and I put it out there. So we all have this balance of masculine and feminine, and our parents affect us. Michael says usually it's just one energy that gets imbalanced. For me
Oh,
personally,
really? I was both for sure.
yeah, for sure, it was both for me. So usually our parents imbalance us. So usually everyone is in their head because no one goes to their heart when they're wounded. Everyone's trying to get out of the pain and go to their head. And so I became very controlling as a response to my wounding. I controlled my own expression. I didn't cry. And I would try to also control other people. So one of the ways that I noticed that I'm being invited to open my heart and be in my feelings is when my teenager doesn't want to wear a coat in the freezing cold Ohio weather. And we're out in public and she's freezing and I'm bundled up in a coat. And I'm like, I noticed one time I was having a conversation with myself where I was just like, you know what? I was suffering because I don't like to be cold. I don't like the cold. And so I'm like, I was suffering on her behalf. I didn't want to be cold. I didn't want to give her the coat and she didn't want to wear a coat. So I was like, I can either suffer or I can just be like, that was her decision. I don't care. I don't care. That was her decision. And I was like, no, that's me going into my head. Like I'm actually really compassionate and suffering because she's suffering. So I just stayed with my own suffering at her coolness. She was so cool. And that's staying open-hearted and starting, instead of being controlling, yelling at her, you have to put on a coat. Starting a big fight. Just it's a random example.
And growing up for me, and it's so like when hindsight is always 2020 for me. And so when I look back at these villains that I had in my life that are now my greatest teacher, like really the villains in your life with healing and time will be your greatest teacher. And that is the sacred contract. That is the promise that they made to you, is I'm going to treat you like this, and this is going to be the experience so that your soul can grow and do what it came here to do. But my family, and that's why this is still something that I am learning how to do every day, moment to moment, is it wasn't, the words were always there, but they weren't in alignment with the actions. So there was a lot of love talked about, but there wasn't the actual act of love. There were words around, we love you and you can do anything and we just want you to be happy, but you actually better do this and you need to show up this certain way. And so it was almost like, for example, my mother has her master's in counseling. And something that I learned is never confuse education with knowledge. And I did. I gave her so many, like I gave her so much of my power because of the fact that I presumed that she was this compassionate, empathetic person. But in reality, she just had a job title, and that wasn't actually part of her true nature. And so, definitely growing up, my masculine as well as feminine energy was influenced. And my dad, my parents divorced when I was in third grade, and my dad had cheated on my mother, and he ultimately married that woman. He's still with that woman, but my dad just really wasn't around much, and so. But I really always wanted him to be proud of me, and um, I had a light bulb moment. One of the last times I ever talked to him, I had sold my house in 2021. I bought my RV that I'm in still, and I was getting ready to travel the states. And it probably was like 6 or 9 months that had passed, and I decided to call him. It was around his birthday in September, and the first thing he said was, "Well, it's about time you called."
Oh God.
And I knew in that moment, I was like, I will always chase him. I will always be the one. I could see the karma, the karmic cycle for what it was, and I was like, this fucking guy could call me whenever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But old me would have taken it on and be like, okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to call him weekly, or I'm going to do whatever it is. And I was just like, you know what, whatever. We had the conversation, but I haven't called him since, and I haven't felt a desire to either, you know? So, um, yeah. All right. We're going to go back in here.
Okay.
Oh. Is God a loving and forgiving God?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then, okay, let's just go down a rabbit's hole then. Why do babies get cancer? And why do bad things happen? Bad things. I'm going to use, air quotes, but
I think that it's karma. Sometimes the soul wants to learn through the experience of having that illness at such a young age. Sometimes the soul is very lovingly helping the parents learn a lesson at a young age. And I have people in my family right now where the child is 3 and he's taking chemo right now for leukemia, and the family dynamic, what it's doing, or what I intuitively know that it's doing, is it's inviting them to have a more compassionate approach to the children in their life. Because if your child has cancer, you're not going to beat it when it's getting on your nerves. You're going to have to change your approach. And so I think that partially the child can get ill due to just the environment of the family. We're very powerful beings, so you can make yourself sick. At a young age, it seems that's a very karmic thing, but also it's teaching lessons to the people around you, not in a punishing way, but so they can grow on a soul level.
100%. It's almost as if I talked about Dr. Brian Weiss earlier, but um, he, the first experience he had with spirit was the woman that he was doing this healing or these regressions with. I think her name was Catherine, and she was in between lives. So she was in an in between state, and all of a sudden she said, "There are 2 masters here to meet with you." And okay. And he said, "One is your father, and one is your son." And he's like, "This was the 80s." He's like, "There was no Facebook, there was no internet. Um, Nobody, and I mean nobody, would have known that I had a son that died at like 25 days old. It just wouldn't, that just information wouldn't have been available. And also, his father dying, I think he even said, he goes, "We didn't even have a eulogy in the paper." And they went on to describe in intricate detail how they died. And specifically, the son described that his heart was born on the outside of his body. And he goes, and the room, by the way, was ice cold, ice cold. And ultimately, the son went to share that the reason that he was born and had died at that age was so that the parents, Dr. Brian and his wife, could learn what love, true love, felt like.
Mm.
And that was the purpose of his life. And ironically enough, when Catherine came out of her theta state, that regressive state, he went on to tell her about the meeting, and she was really creeped out because she wasn't consciously aware in that moment. But what they had repeated to him multiple times is, this information is just for you.
Yeah.
So after like the third time of him trying to tell her about it, he realized that this was from my experience only and not for her. Yeah. Yeah.
So beautiful. I love that story.
Isn't that beautiful? And ironically enough, I don't know if you've experienced this, but this has been one of my biggest lessons. Again, me as a 3 on the Enneagram, is learning that life is to be lived selfishly, in the sense of that my experience, it's impossible for me to fully describe to somebody else what I'm experiencing. Or I used to need people to be excited about what happened to me, and, think that what happened was really cool. And a lot of the coolest things I've experienced, I experienced in solitude. And there's
Mm.
no point of me even sharing it, because the experience is 10 times more juicy than sharing it could ever possibly be. Yeah. It can be lonely. That's what I don't want to say lonely, but it's kind of like a singular experience. I don't know if you've experienced that life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's difficult. And as a 4, I'm like, nope, someone needs to understand this right now. Who am I telling? Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait a
Yeah.
few months, but someone's got to know eventually.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll write a book about it. I'll figure out how to let everyone, if it's something really special to me, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because
I think, do you plan on writing a book?
yes.
Okay, because I was gonna. That just comes through that you should. I get information that it's not like a novel in the sense of really big, but almost like short stories.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the idea of it is going to be where I know what past lives I had that influenced the karma that I have in this life, and how my childhood conditioning impacted my relationships, and it's all connected to the past lives. So it's like how I've grown in relationships, and the relationships that I've had. And it's going from it's going from like really crazy stories to, and now I can be with a partner and not want to die inside. It's that doesn't sound very compelling, but
Are
that's
you kidding me? I'm the one that's like, let's cry. Let's talk about the sad things, the dark things. I live for those moments.
well, because dream interpretation is how I know so much about myself. I love this stuff. It's so juicy. And then meeting with people like you, who's a channel that can like give more. You're a fantastic channel. I love every time that you've given me any information that you're channeling from your guides. I love it. And it's so interesting to know what I've done in other lifetimes. And I'm like, oh, I can feel that energy in me today. Like it's just a string that travels through the universe.
Isn't that
And I'm still working on it. That thing that I'd never mastered in that lifetime, I'm back. And I've had this hard stuff that I've had to do to try to master it again. You don't give up.
the soul's eternal? That's the other thing. Like, again, realizing that there was reincarnation, um, and that no one ever really dies. That's like really, I don't have fear anymore, really related to any aspects of my life. I have such a deep relationship with God that I know I'm always provided for. I never will go without. And okay, that's not necessarily entirely true. The way that I energetically connect with life, I know how to play the game, kind of, if that makes sense. I know how to manifest and bring things into me. Or I can tell with certain dialogue. This morning, for example, give you a good example. Yesterday, I turned a corner and I hit a curb. And I looked this morning and I got a flat tire. And again, I'm like, okay, cool. There's somebody that I probably have to meet, or, like there's a reason that happened. But the first thought that I had was, damn, I'm spending so much fucking money right now.
Mm.
And I'm like, cool, that's the vibration. That's the frequency that you're calling in right now. It's like this awareness. It's like, because whatever you think is your truth. And
Yeah.
whatever you think, your thoughts, your feelings and thoughts, they manifest into physical reality. And so I quickly changed my thought, saying, I have so much abundance in my life. And I'm so thankful that I have the abundance to get this fixed versus these things keep happening to me, because they will keep happening if that's what you are saying, thinking, and believing. Um, Out of curiosity, with dreams, what what do our dreams tell us?
Everything. They cover
They
the
do.
whole gamut: health, career, relationships, life purpose. They will. There's one that I'm missing: health, relationships, life purpose. What your spiritual gifts are.
Your gifts are.
That's
Yeah.
a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to, they had a dream, what do you interpret dreams for people? Could they reach out? Do you do that individually?
Yeah,
Is
I do have space to do that for people too. And I have a website that it's just aprilangel.com if
okay.
anybody was interested.
I will tell you, April. So you talked about my channeling, which, by the way, I just have to get this out here because your guides keep bringing this up.
Yes.
Um, on the books, I see 3 of them in particular, but now they're showing a few more. They're smaller, like thinner, like for example, it's ironic we're talking about sacred contracts. I do have a sacred contracts book. They're like this thick. This is how thick. Oh, where am I going? They're like
Oh,
this
is it
thick.
like this thick?
Yes, maybe even a little thinner than that.
Ooh, I can
Yes.
do that.
And they're all different colors. Like one of the covers is blue, one of them is yellow, one of them is orange, and now they're showing a green one as well. And I was like, what are the colors associated to? And how they're connecting it to is like a chakra. So the green book would be like related to your heart, and
Mm.
the karma and experiences that you've had that connect to the heart chakra, that connect to the sacral, that connect to your throat chakra. So that's information that's coming through. I don't know exactly that's what the colors are, but that's how they're making me feel, is that they're connected to a chakra center and a feeling or a state of being. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, and I keep seeing staples on the side, like 2 staples, anyways, on the spine of the book. Um, I just got lost on my train of thought. Oh, you talk about dreams. They'll show you everything. You are excellent at interpreting dreams. Like, specifically when it comes to like the relationship stuff in dreams, like when mom shows up, or what this guide is showing you, or I dream a lot about my heart regularly. That's um, just an area that I'm continuing to heal. And so I just want you to know that you're amazing at what you do there. And then
Thank
the delivery of it, that's what's so beautiful too, because your dreams, I mean, some of them are warm and fuzzy, but they're going to highlight and exaggerate what's wrong,
Yeah.
out of alignment. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, my joke is, I'm like, dreams are always telling you what's wrong with you. Like you can have just achieved, like you could have like saved a baby from falling from the sky or something, and your dreams are not going to be patting you on your back. They're going to be telling you that you need to stop eating cheese or whatever it is that's like a big deal, and like your intestines are out of whack because you whatever. Like they're going to be telling you. There's 4 rules to dream interpretation. The first one is everything is you. The second rule is everything is linked to show cause and effect. So if I have digestive system issues, I'm going to see what created those digestive system issues. And usually it happens early on. So something happened when I was 3 and I wanted to die, and I don't remember that, but my dreams are telling me that that was the case, and it's still an energy that's inside me. And because I wanted to die, I am going to get cancer in my colon later on, because that's just how powerful we are. So like those are the kind of things that show up sometimes in dreams, and those are very useful things to know and work with, so you don't get sick. And then I've done those same things. That I used an example that isn't necessarily true for me, but that's the kind of stuff. The third rule is that you're responsible for everything that happens in the dream. So it's like, we're not going to blame mom for hitting you. The dream is telling you what you began to believe about yourself as a result of mom hitting you. So it's like you're responsible for everything that's happening. And then the last rule is you are meant to face anything that you're running away from in the dream.
So
And
oh, please go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that leads me to my next question is, one of my dearest friends, like, I never knew what a soulmate was until I had my awakening because my heart was so closed.
Mm.
I never knew what the mirror of the soul looked like in another person to have a soulmate. And um, he takes medications at night. Used to anyway. I haven't. It's been a few years, but his dreams were always nightmares. And he, I remember him even telling me one time, he's like, I love that you love the dreams so much, but I don't. Like, that's just not my jam. And so what would you say to someone? Well, where do nightmares come from?
Well, dreams have three purposes: to heal you, to guide you, or to show your normal reaction to the subject matter of the dream. So, dreams are kind of a nightmare comes from, well, if you had a terrible childhood and it's creating a reality where you're in so much mental and emotional conflict, even if your reality is like, I'm just burying all these feelings and I'm just going through the motions, like you're going to have dreams that reflect that, and it's not beautiful. It's not, I love life and I enjoy my life. So I want to say that no dream is sent to you with the intentions of being a nightmare, and that's true most of the time. But sometimes it's going, especially if you're doing a healing therapy, like gory things are happening, but it's showing you that that's what you're working on. If you're not working on it, the gory things can still happen, but it's because you're resisting all of the things in the dream that's trying to like heal you and guide you. Like you're not going to embrace the women, you're not going to get close to the men because the examples of masculine or feminine energy in childhood was not safe, so I'm going to be resisting everything that comes at me in a dream, and it's a nightmare. It is.
Yeah. I let me know if this is correct, but when I think about dreams, we have three states of consciousness that I'm aware of. We've got our subconscious, our conscious state, which is like what we are aware of, and then our higher self, our supraconscious. And when we dream, it is our higher self, our higher conscious, and our subconscious trying to make our consciousness aware of something.
I like that.
Okay. And that for me, what I've heard about with nightmares, or again, um, there's a past life that I have that is heavy in this lifetime. It happened 14 lifetimes ago for me, where I was, how do the angels describe it? I was a man of large stature. That's how they kept saying. I was a man of large stature, and I was in charge of this town. Like there, that was my role. I was a leader of this town, and by the way, the large stature was 6 foot tall, so I was 6 foot tall in that lifetime. And the surrounding villages, there were men, and the angels called them unattached men, unattached from God, that were burning and pillaging and raping women and children. And so I had moved my group of people into this to another area. And that night I slept in a barn on like a stack of straw on my belly. And three of the men that were my friends cut me, sliced me up, and ultimately into pieces. And so this was the first lifetime where it's the highest I'll ever vibrate in a life out of the thousands. Like I've had 5,000 lives that I've lived, not always as a human, I know. But this is the highest vibration apparently in this lifetime I'll ever live. But in my dreams, I run away from three men regularly.
Oh my goodness.
That's a common theme. And I used to have a night terror as a child, that I could re-describe this dream. I mean, I had it 1,000 times where three men came into my house and started killing everybody. And so I don't know exactly what I'm going to be healing in this lifetime associated to that, but that is one dream that I can think of where I'm running away, or I wake myself up. Like the dream is just too intense for my consciousness to take, that I'll wake myself up out of the dream. And so I think of also as a nightmare, or something unsavory in a dream, or something that I don't want, as my consciousness not wanting to, like you said, take on the message. Or uh, and the message, of course, people say like my dreams are crazy. Well, once you start to discern the language of dreams, they're not. They tell a story, and it's like the most poignant, clear, it's inescapable, the message that they are seeking to share with you. It is crazy. But that's what I think about nightmares a lot of times too, is it's like some sort of information that we do not want to accept. We're not ready.
Perfect example. That was a perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get another question out of the jar here.
Oh, I'll add while you're pulling.
Oh,
The
please.
masculine energy has everything to do with feeling secure and feeling safe. And if you don't feel secure and safe, even though you want to feel that way, the reason you don't feel that way is because of a betrayal in a past life. So it's like having these men come close to you to try to give you that safety and security that you are lacking. That would make perfect sense why they're chasing you.
Say that one more time.
The masculine energy governs how safe we feel in the world and how secure we feel, how safe the world is. And if you felt completely murdered in another lifetime, the masculine energy coming towards you is trying to correct that, but you don't trust the masculine energy because it was able to do what it did. So
You know what's so beautiful about what you just shared there is I didn't trust my father growing up.
oh,
You know, it's like these people, right? These lives that we plan. And so it's like almost adds to the karma associated to that other lifetime, which would relate to the healing that I'll do in this lifetime with my masculine energy and trusting men.
yeah.
Or the role that I used to think that I had to play was like the damsel or the sexy girl. You know, like that was my the only reason this man could possibly be interested in is because he wants something from me. And it's my job to provide that to him, or he'll leave.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. Anything else to add?
You said it adds to my karma that I had this issue with dad. I would say that you had that issue with dad because this is a karmic thing that you want to correct.
I would 100%. That's what I would say too, without a doubt. Yeah, that is why he played my father. Like there was another past life that I had that I healed from that was influencing this one. And part of the way it was influencing is the soul had not ever actually ascended. I was murdered in that lifetime unexpectedly. But in that lifetime, and I was probably like, I'd say 14 or 1500s. That's the energy that I get. And I was poor, 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 beggar on the streets, poor. Like the image that I get is of this woman from the side just begging people from the ground. And I had really long brown hair, and I'm in almost like a potato sack. That's kind of what the outfit looks like. And I feel emotion coming. There was only one man in that lifetime that helped me or gave me like some bread or anything. And I know that that's the energy of my father in this lifetime.
Oh,
Yeah. 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 So it's something that else that happened during my awakening and connected to dreams as I woke up one morning and I went into like my closet within my bathroom, and I still have this button. So you know how clothes sometimes will come with like a button in a package, like a little envelope, like a sweater or something. It'll be like as a tag. Okay, cool. I see this button, and I had written on it, I don't know when, years before, but it said sister water, dad not real, dad. And immediately the consciousness, the awareness associated to the dreams came back to me. And it was a dream that I had with my sister of a lifetime at Atlantis. And that was what connected us to our alcoholism in this life, like just drowning ourselves.
oh my.
And the father, not father, my dad was like a Triton almost in that dream. And you know how consciousness can just come to you. And what he was sharing with me is that he had been with me for many lifetimes, and that our souls play all of these different roles. Like he's been a neighbor, I've been his father. It almost helped create some detachment associated to that relationship that the longing that I had of wanting a father. Yeah, it was really wild. Yeah. And this may be like an off subject topic, but most folks that I meet have, especially in the spiritual sense, like maybe not the best relationships with their parents. What is your relationship like with your family?
I don't have a relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
And I and my dad is very, my story is kind of beautiful. Like my mom got pregnant at 17, 18, and she certainly was not did not get pregnant on purpose. So one of my wounds is an unwanted pregnancy. And then she met my dad while she was pregnant, and he had just lost a relationship. The woman took the child in the middle of the night, and so he wanted a family. And so here comes like a ready-made package, my mom with a belly, and he's like, bingo. And so he's my dad, but he wanted to be a dad. So like it's I was just thinking the other night, like the kids stayed with him and she's gone. So like she's just doing her own thing and not doesn't have the capacity to mother. And it's my relationship with him is that he plays the masculine role. He's supportive. If I need something, like he'll come. And I'm not married yet, so like he's the person that I'll still call if my water heater blows out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm shifting that, but he still plays that role. But like emotional connection, like I don't really have that with anyone in my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't understand me. That's my wound. So I look for that in other relationships.
Are you able to see that more easily now, though? Like the seeking of that energy in someone else?
Yes. And part of knowing myself is accepting that about myself and not thinking that there's something wrong with me for being like that.
Yeah. 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 One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know if this was Michael's quote or if this is something that I channeled, but karma is accepting who you are and letting go of who you thought you were. Yeah. Because we have these ideas of who we think we are, but it's not actually reality.
Yeah, I don't even know who I think I am. I think I just am.
Yeah. That's beautiful, because the more you like, especially labels, right? Like that's identify with the ego, because that's transient. When we, like I'm 38 years old, I live in this town, I went to college here, like that's all identification of the mind. That's not who you are. That's not your essence of
right.
you know.
Yeah, no, when I was a teenager, I was like, this is the music that I love. This is who I am. I am this.
Yes.
This music that is my favorite music.
Yeah.
That's how I identify myself.
Yeah.
And it's completely grew out of that.
Yeah, I know.
As you should, as everyone does, hopefully.
Oh, evolve. Like I was just watching, what was I watching this morning? Oh, a Family Guy episode. And they were like on spring break in Mexico, and there was like a foam party right on this boat. And I'm like, I remember going to Mexico and going to a foam party. And I'm like, that has zero interest for me today. That would be like hell today if they were like, you need to go do this thing. And so, thank God we evolve and our interests change, life would be pretty boring. And so, but part of that is I had to learn how to give myself permission to change my mind, to change whatever it is. Because that was almost kind of not allowed as well. You said this, and now you're, guilt was incited whenever I wanted to change my mind growing up. I know, guilt. I've had to heal a lot about with guilt. It's, yeah. Okay. And where are we at? Okay. We've got about 20 minutes left too. So, okay. Oh, this is great. What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
Do I want to answer that first, or do you want to answer that?
Well, we can both do it though.
Yeah,
your dimension is going to be different than mine.
Religion is what you learn from people about the way things are, and spirituality is something that you cultivate within.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Yeah, I call it man's application. Yeah, and I don't think, I think the Bible, I mean, there's a reason that it's been around for 2,000 years. Like it's a great, I guess,
love it
in the sense of like it's got these really beautiful stories, but they're stories,
Yeah.
And who's to say that actually happened? And I made a video on this a while ago, and the title of it was, "What does it mean to sin?" because that's the one thing that it really I don't align with religion is there's so much shame and fear mongering. Like hell doesn't exist. Hell is not a place where the soul will ever go. You may reincarnate again and pick a really fucking tough life where some things happen to you, and that's how the karma that you incurred in this life will be balanced, but you're not going to go into like hell. That just isn't like that is what people use to like keep you in place. But to sin means to miss the mark.
Yeah.
And only you know when you miss the mark, because your heart will hurt. Something will feel out of alignment. And so to say that these are the 10 commandments and these are the 10 sins, it's like not necessarily.
Right.
That's not a, to me, that's a blanketed statement when we're all having different experiences. And I think that when you live by the Bible, you're robbing yourself of an authentic, heart driven experience of life.
Yeah. Some of the people that are I grew up in religion. I even joined the I joined the Brethren volunteer service and went overseas when I was 21 and lived in Belfast for 2 years doing volunteer work. And my religion fell away, ironically, while I was in the Brethren volunteer service, because I was away from my church and the the closeness that I felt there. So I'm out on my own now, and I have no support system of other like-minded people, and I'm suffering and lonely. My God, the loneliness. And even though I was living in a house with they were European volunteers, but it was a great experience in a great community. But I was facing all of my childhood issues face on at that time, so I was like really depressed when I got there. And where am I going with this? Oh yeah, I had guilt. I had a lot of guilt due to the religion, and I read a book by Neil Donald Walsh called Communication with God or something like that. And that book was actually like, when I first started reading it, I was like, blasphemy, and I was throwing it across the room. But something in me too was like, you know what? I'm going to beat this book by reading the whole thing. I don't know what the logic was with that, but I'm like, I'll beat you, book. I'll show you. I'm going to. And there was one part where he's allegedly having a conversation with God, and he's like, the commandments were not commandments. That was a misinterpretation. They're not commandments, they're commitments. These are the things that show you that you're close to God. I didn't command it. It's just like, you know that you're closer to God when you don't kill people and when you honor your neighbor like yourself. And these are just like benchmarks for when you're getting closer. And I was like, that makes so much more sense. And then everything else in the book, like everything unraveled from there. And do I believe that book is actually channeled by God? I don't, that's up in the air, but it still affected me that way. So then I was agnostic for years. I didn't like the Bible. I didn't like religion during those years, but I go back to it now. I like the stories in it. And I actually believe in Jesus, and I believe that he's still helping with the bringing love to the planet. And I love him as an example, because dreams show us what our spiritual gifts are. And he had so many of them. And like, spiritual leadership is empowering people with an open and compassionate heart. So, inspiring and empowering people to be their best selves, overcome whatever problem they have. And I love Jesus as an example of spiritual leadership, because so many people have this gift on the planet right now, and they want to hide themselves. And I'm like, yeah, you can't. When you're a leader, when you have this gift, like Jesus knew that, if we're looking at the story, Jesus knew that he was going to be killed. And if he cared about staying safe is not the name of the game when you're on earth. It's like expressing yourself no matter what's going to happen, and just letting life happen and the cards fall where they will. And Jesus knew that he was going to be killed, but he embraced it and stayed true to his mission, his purpose. And I just think that that's a great example. And I like to use Martin Luther King too. And Michael's like, stop telling people that, like, stop using dead people as an example of spiritual leadership. I'm like, I can't help it. Like, it's like they just stayed so true and like did not crumble or make themselves smaller as a result of what the opposition was trying to do.
I love that. So there's so many points, and I'm going to ask Spirit to bring me back to some of them, but I loved, and I may even have you repeat it so that it's iron in my brain. But you were like, Earth is not a place to play it safe. Like we're here to, how did you say it? Like that just, because there's moments where I feel, um, failure as a type 3 on the Enneagram is like the cardinal sin. You don't want to be known as a failure, because what somebody else thinks about me is what the truth of who I am, which I know logically is not true whatsoever. Um, but do you remember how you quoted that? That was just so beautiful.
The name of the game for Earth is not to play it safe. It's to express yourself fully in the face of wherever the car, whatever life is going to throw at you. Like you stay true to your own expression.
Oh my God, that's so good. Oh, that resonates so deeply. And the next question, thank you for sharing that, is how would spiritual leadership, let's say you have this gift, how
Mm-hmm.
would that, how, like, so I knew what my gifts were from dreams before I ever knew that I knew how to channel or knew that I was clairvoyant or clairaudient, or had the gift of prophecy. Well, that something happened that I knew that I could predict the future. That was like a few things in a row. And I was like, holy shit. But how would someone know that they have a spiritual leadership gift from their dreams? What would be some symbols?
Well, dreaming of you're everything in your dreams. So dreaming of a president, dreaming of a king, a queen, a prince, any references to leadership, the name of anyone in the Bible that was in a position of leadership. So Mother Mary, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, those names just appearing in the dream can be leadership. The color purple can be leadership. Um, what else? Oh, groups, a group of people that share a common purpose,
Yeah.
like the church, and referencing the mass, that can mean that you have leadership.
I remember once I had a bunch of female lions that were around me.
Lions, good. Yes, I forgot about that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
lions, because they're the king of the jungle.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember I was like, "Oh, really? That's what they meant." So yeah, I think that that's beautiful. Uh, the final thing I was going to share just an anecdotal. So during my awakening, Yeshua showed up heavily. Like I would just go on a walk, and there would be images of him everywhere. And because I had quit this cult, that was my life. I mean, literally, it told me when to eat, when to, like, where I was going. So I started to just follow my dog. Like if she wanted to go outside and go potty, normally it was like really quick and I was like, come back inside. But if she wanted to sit outside in the grass, we would just do that. It was wherever you want to go, we're going to do it. I was in like what do they call, like a liminal space where like a big transition was happening. And there was one day that we were standing about 15 feet from my back slider, and she was just standing there, and I started digging in the dirt, and I'm digging and I'm digging and I'm digging. And all of a sudden, like the inside of a granola wrapper, like a chewy wrapper, it's almost kind of that like
Metallic.
metallic. Exactly. All of a sudden I see this sparkle, and I pick it up, and it was a picture of Yeshua, like this big, that was like a foot into the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. So I 100% feel his presence around regularly, and he's one that whether I get know that I get a communication back, I talk to him regularly as well. So yeah, yeah. Where are we at? Okay, cool. I'm gonna do like one more question, and then we'll probably like be about time to close it out. This is a question about God. Can I trust that God has my best interests in mind?
Yes, absolutely. Always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you know that though?
Well, the tricky part is that it goes back to like, we think that life should be comfortable and amazing, and I should just be taking vacations on the beach. All that, like that's what life is for. And it's not. Life is for learning and growing and expanding your soul. And the only way that we can expand is to confront limitations. And so you're going to be faced with limitations, and sometimes they're going to be super duper difficult to navigate. And knowing that it's ultimately for your own expansion to face something like this, and God I believe that we have a huge hand in designing the life that we are going to live, and we are God, and God is all of us as well. So um,
Yeah.
we always have we always have the support and the encouragement to make these difficult choices, to have these really difficult lives. And as soon as we want to figure out how to shift and make, it's like you were saying, like, I'm going to change the way that I think so that I'm not bringing more experiences where I'm spending more money. It's like shifting our consciousness state and our philosophies. Life's a bitch and then I die. Or if it's not one thing, it's another, like shifting out of this victim consciousness into other consciousness. So things are going to keep happening that are maybe making us feel more and more like a victim, but it's really just like to eventually point out, like, enough is enough. Like, how do I get out of this? And so,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah. But have you always, like, for, like I told you, a tree turned to gold, and I knew it was the soul of God in that moment. And so, uh, but prior to that, I didn't believe in God. And so, like, no, like I really thought we just died and went into the ground. Mine was like life's a bitch and then you die. Mine was more like you work till you're 65, you maybe get 10 or 15 years to like do other things, which I didn't even know what a hobby was. I'd like, again, I was so
Wow.
wrapped up in doing things for others. I didn't even know how to like sit quietly for a moment.
Mm.
And so how did you have, because it's, to me, it's deeper than faith. It's a knowing. How do you have that knowing? Do you know where that came from? And I know it sounds like you had religion as a child, but again, religion is not necessarily, a lot of people are religious and, think God has abandoned them.
Mm. Yeah, because they think that bad things happening mean that God doesn't love them or isn't there, and don't
Yeah.
understand that there's a deeper message in it. And so I fully embrace that anything that difficult has happened to me or will happen to me, like, is for my highest and best good, and I'm going to get something out of it. And I've witnessed it happening enough times that I'm like, okay, I know it's for the best. I know this relationship difficulty, even though it's rocky right now, I know that something transformational is going to come from it, because I know the pattern. Like, I'm speaking specifically of the relationship that I'm in, but like that, it just happens every single time, and I can trust it. Mm.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I get like, that's like my tire, like I talked about. And I'm like, there's going to be somebody that I meet, or there's something that is still not quite balanced yet that I've got to go balance uh, with a relationship or what have you. And this is kind of what leads me. A lot of times I'm still single, so I'm like, maybe my partner will be there. Who knows? You don't know who's going to
Yeah.
be there,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Before we head out, I just wanted to share with folks. I may update the description, but if you want to meet with April, her contact information will be in the description below. She is. So, what kind of services in total do you offer, or what are your offerings?
I I offer dream interpretation, but it's almost like if your dreams are showing that you have wounds, like, that are blocking you from expressing yourself, expressing your gifts, that are creating experiences that you find very unpleasant, you're meant to heal that. And so I also offer the cutting the ties that bind services and therapy. I'll walk a person through that for as many weeks as it takes. I also do that.
That, and I can't express enough how life changing that was for me. And I was doing a lot of healing. No joke, 2020, at least like the 3 quarter, like from about April on, I cried for hours a day,
Yeah.
fetal position. And there was so much bliss as well. Trust me. I mean, like, God is talking to me, and I'm seeing and hearing fairies and gnomes, and I'm like, angels are communicating with me, and I'm starting to discern that I have, like, my clairaudience is one of my strongest gifts. And then, but whenever I say that, spirits, like, all of them work in tandem with one another. But so there was all these magical, and knowing that, I was loved, because part of my life's purpose is to help people fall back in love with themselves. And in
Ah.
order for that to be my purpose, I had to have not loved myself. That
Mhm.
I had to have had people that didn't love me. And to know that I am loved and I'm held, I'm never alone. God is always with us, and our spirit team. So it was really blissful, but I cried hours a day. And I that doing the cutting the ties that bind therapy it helped me tremendously. Not only like on a subconscious level that I could see in dreams, but literally like having bump-ins with people, and instead of these women being really fucking annoying to me, they were like, oh, how are you, as opposed to these like gnarly people. You start to, these bump-in interactions you're having are really beautiful and delightful. So it's not only subconscious, there's a physical manifestation of that healing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a little bit earlier than the 90 minutes, but I thank you so much for joining me today. Uh, you know, um, yeah, I just feel really blessed to know you and that our souls have met in this lifetime. And you could have been doing anything on Sunday with your time, and you chose to share it with me and with others. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I would love, and I know we did talk about this, but I want to continue to keep this channel open because I would love for you to come back and have other conversations too.
Yeah, I love it. It's been an honor. I love what you're doing. I love your gifts. Like, you're so gifted in a way that to me is very, very special. My gifts don't work the way that yours do, so I'm always in awe whenever you're channeling so automatically. And it's an honor to meet with you every time we do. It's always a pleasure. So I'll
Would you,
happily.
are you open to a message? Because sometimes they're kind of personal, but you're
Of course.
okay, cool. And I can feel some emotion coming through. So I don't know if there's some emotion that you're processing right now, but I get that you're at a point of some choice right now. There's some sort of choice or change that is like front of mind for you.
Mhm.
When I say front of mind, it's like sometimes we're like, should I move? But no, this is like, hey, you have an eviction note, not an eviction, but like you've got to be out in 30 days. Like somehow whatever the choice or the change is, it's like the outside world presented it to you versus coming from inside. What they would like you to do is you have the tools to answer, to come up with an answer. Specifically, what does your heart want? What I am seeing is that there might be some, how they're describing it, chirping in your ear, some influences coming from other people. Well, I would do this, or I would do that, or you shouldn't do this. And it's like, they're not fucking living your life.
Mhm.
So, be conscious of that, and then allowing yourself to go to your heart. Because what I'm getting is whatever the choices that you're going to make, it doesn't make logical sense. And it might be like, you talked about relationships. It might be going back to that person for the seventh time. And people are like, why are you going back to that person for the seventh time? They don't they're not living your life. So just honor whatever's coming in through your heart. The other thing that's coming up is just to remind you that you are such an excellent mother. You are such an excellent mother. You are not your mother. And so I don't know if there's been some maybe ideas around patterns of things that your mother did that you think that you may be doing or influencing. You're not your mother. You never will be your mother. And so just know that you love your children ferociously, and they feel that and they know that. Even if they don't, express it, or they, have meltdowns or say that they hate you in the moment, they feel that, and they are having a completely different experience than you ever had with your mother.
Oh, thank you so much. See,
Yeah.
everyone, she's so good.
Oh, also this one other thing. I don't know if you've been thinking about starting a different service offering, like specifically within your spiritual leadership. They want you to do that. They want you to do that. Time is that they literally, the image is, like a pigeon flying from the coop, like but you're in the coop and wings come out. So there's definitely a connection with angels just as well. Like whatever that work is going to be, it's time. The time is now. Like, live that fearlessly component.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't even know what I'm going to do yet, but
Yeah.
that's great support, because they're like, my dreams are telling me it's time for a new strategy, a new upgrade something, strategize. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Call in the angels. That's what they're saying. Like, go into a space, like get a notebook and a pen, and just like say, like, how can I be a channel for you? How can I be a conduit for
I'm
you?
going to cheat. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to go to Kara Brown. She's going to channel the angels for me.
I love that. Oh, I love Kara as well. I'm hoping to get her on here soon, and maybe like next month as well. So
Great.
cool. Thank you all to everybody that joined the live as well. This is the first one of many. If you have a story to tell, or you have an offering, or a service that you would like to join me as a speaker on the live, let me know. There's a contact page on my website, which will be in the description, because, like, let's raise the vibration of Earth together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome. All right, we'll see you later.